Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's JA Company Program Speaker Series. After taking a week off for the long holiday weekend, we are very excited for our guest this evening. And as you all know, the program that you're all in is rooted in entrepreneurship, and we have one of the more successful entrepreneurs here in the city of Philadelphia. Nick Bayer is founder and CEO of Saxbys Coffee. I One of the things I have missed by not going into the city for meetings over the last year is that cup of coffee at Saxbys, because unfortunately there aren't any out in Downingtown. But Nick, we could talk about that after this call. But before I introduce Nick officially, just a couple of reminders. First of all, we will do about 20 minutes of hearing from Nick. And then, as we always do, we will open it up to questions from our group. Go ahead and raise your hand, and then when I call on you, turn on your mic and on your video and ask your question. In addition, we ask that you all share this with the other students in your program. I'm sure it's going to be a very fascinating conversation tonight. And as we always do, we will ask Nick if he is willing to have folks reach out to him on LinkedIn. One of the reasons that we do this program is a strength of the experience that these students are participating in pre-pandemic is the ability to build their network from business leaders from in the community. And in the absence of that, we created this and hopefully can still allow our participants to build their network virtually. So with that, Nick, you get the easy question first. Go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself. What do we not know about Saxbys Coffee and your journey as founder and CEO?
Cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me here. Yeah, Paul and the group. I think it's great to hear so many and see so many great young budding entrepreneurs spend time on a cold, snowy, rainy, I guess Monday night, to hear my story. But again, I'm Nick Bayer. I'm the founder and CEO of Saxbys. As I like to say, I'm very focused on being a triple threat, meaning be equally successful in my business life, my personal life, and in my community life. There's a lot of people in this world that are successful, maybe in their business life, but equally unsuccessful in their personal life. They're not around for their family. They go from relationship to relationship, or they're very involved in their business and they do nothing for their communities. For me, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I grade my day not just on was I great for Saxbys today, but was I a great husband? Was I a great father? Was I a great brother? And am I great to my community, to the board of trustees of the Franklin Institute, of Big Brothers Big Sisters, Community College of Philadelphia, Covenant House, which is the youth homeless shelter. I'm on the boards of a lot of organizations because I believe that it is my requirement and my responsibility as a business leader here in Philadelphia to do more than just be a good business person. And even to be more than just a good father and a good husband, it's to lend my network and my passions and my capabilities to lift up my community. And I don't think that's ever been more important than it is right now as we're all trying to deal with and hopefully eventually crawl out of the COVID situation. So that's a quick introduction of who I am and what I'm focused on.
So Nick, tell us a little bit about how you do that, because, if you follow a lot of entrepreneurs, there's this, in some ways, I think, myth out there that if you want to be successful, you've got to give up something, and I just heard you talk about success in your business, success in your family life, but then also I imagine part of that is taking care of yourself. And so, if it's not true that you have to give up one of those three things, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, Paul. And I obviously don't subscribe to the belief that you have to give something up to be great or to make an impact. But what I think you have to do first and foremost is you have to know what you love to do. I know that there's this notion or probably this debate around, when you ask entrepreneurs, like, what's the key to a successful career? And oftentimes they'll say, like, know what you're passionate about. And I actually agree with that. And there's some people that push back on that. And oftentimes what they push back on it is, it's like, you should really focus on what you're good at. And I think what you're good at and what you're passionate about are oftentimes inextricably linked, but you have to think critically about what are the things that make you happy, and making sure that you spend your time doing that. Like, it probably sounds really awesome to say, I created a tech company or I created an app. I'm terrible at tech. Like tech is not something I'm good at, and therefore I'm not passionate about it. I'm good at people. I like people. I like doing nice things for people. I like being responsive. I like being present. I like making people feel good. And I've built a business around sort of that passion and something that I'm good at. And as a result, I've aligned everything in my life to that central belief. So every organization that I support, when you think about Big Brothers Big Sisters or Junior Achievement or the Community College of Philadelphia, those are all people-centric businesses or organizations. Those are all organizations that are predicated on giving people opportunities to go do things that they love to do. And just the same, my wife and I are very aligned with that. If my wife was looking for someone who was going to be a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and otherwise I'm just there at home, we wouldn't have a very good relationship. Or if my son thought I was going to be a 9 to 5 and otherwise I'd be there all the time, we wouldn't have a good relationship. So I've worked very hard over the 15 years I've been building Saxbys to know what I'm good at, be super passionate, and then align all three angles of my life to that. And yeah, I don't spend a lot of time doing things outside of that. I don't do fantasy sports. There's a lot of things that I did when I was younger and I didn't have great clarity as to who I am and the impact that I wanted to make in this world. But as I've matured and as I've gained experience, I've really aligned all of those things. And therefore, I think I take great care of myself. I take great care of my business, my family, and my community. And because I know what I'm good at and I'm very passionate about it.
I think it's interesting, that you said when you gave the example of fantasy sports, you don't do much outside of what you just described. And yet I'm hearing all the things you do and the things that make you happy. And you've seen the same studies that I have, is that there's a clear link between success and happiness and success. And they both have to be there. Just being successful does not necessarily make you happy, but at the same time, being happy all the time, unless you have a goal, something you're striving toward, that happiness often doesn't last. And we hear that from a lot of the leaders in the community and entrepreneurs that have taken something like you did and made it big what it is today. So with that in mind, tell us a little bit about how has your role changed? Because when you start, right, your passion and it's new and you're building this team and building this entity. But how has that changed now as the business has matured in your role as CEO?
Yeah, you figure, we're as Paul, you and I were speaking on just at the beginning of this, we're almost a year into sort of the COVID shutdown or closure, slowdown, or whatever we want to actually call it. 1 year ago, we at Saxbys were absolutely crushing it. Like we were so busy hiring people left and right. Our sales were through the roof. Like we were doing phenomenally well. And then out of this very office that I'm standing in, I had to start to navigate our cafes getting closed. By March 16th, 2020, we had every one of our cafes, 30 cafes, closed at 5 o'clock that night and didn't reopen for 5 months. So we had to figure out a way to be able to keep our team together and keep my investors and my board happy. Not a very easy thing to be able to do. And so, prior to COVID, this was a company that had almost 1,000 team members. So we had 1,000 people working for Saxbys, spread out over a lot of different cafes, with a lot of different priorities and initiatives. And therefore, my role from when I started Saxbys, when it was pretty much just me wearing a lot of different hats, has evolved quite a bit. Now I'm much more of I have to be much more on the visionary side of things. As I like to remind myself, I live with 1 foot in the future and 1 foot in the now. And as good entrepreneurs, you never have a foot in the past. The past is the past. I've got 1 foot here and I've got 1 foot in the future. And so that's really where my job is. My team is very capable. They're very motivated to really allow this company to do what we need to do today. My job is to be sort of the captain of the boat out in front of it with my binoculars, making sure that I'm not running us into glaciers, and as we all know now with COVID, you can't always see glaciers. Sometimes they're deep underwater and they're really, really damaging. But organizations, whether you're a for-profit, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're huge or you're small, organizations win and they navigate glaciers, whether they miss the glacier or whether the glacier actually hits them. They navigate those successfully because they have culture. because they stand for something. Like, you guys might not be able to see it behind me, but I'm standing in the middle of my office. Our mission statement to make life better and our 6 core values are all spread around it. You can't enter or exit my office. Everyone goes through an interview here without seeing that. That is what we stand for. And we only hire people because their culture fits. We only promote and hold on to and empower people because their culture fits. And, COVID is a great test for that, is that my job, as I like to say, is I have to have a foot in the future and a foot today, but I also have to be sort of the culture, the sort of the culture setter. If I don't respect our culture, if I don't walk the walk 24/7, 365, nobody else will. So where my job is today is I'm the culture cheerleader, and I have to be the person with one foot in the future, and I have to be helping navigate this boat, knowing that we're going to miss most glaciers and some are going to hit us. But I need to make sure people don't fall overboard. Our culture is what keeps people holding on and motivated to keep this ship moving. And that's what I spend most of my time doing now.
So tell us a little bit about that culture. You mentioned your mission statement. How come your mission statement is not make the best damn cup of coffee in Philadelphia?
Yeah, it's great question. So, having good product, so having the best damn coffee, having the best cold brew, having plant-powered sandwiches and grilled cheese, that's table stakes. You better have that. Like, if you don't have that, you get blown out of my industry. My industry is so competitive. Everybody has good product. But if you don't have more than that, you're not going to differentiate. You might have a good year. You might even have 2 or 3 years. I'm not trying to win a sprint. We're trying to win a marathon here. We're trying to build a business that is beloved by both the people inside and outside the company. And therefore you have to do more than just coffee. And for me, Paul, I didn't become an entrepreneur, or particularly one in the coffee space, because of coffee. I chose the coffee industry because I wanted to be a social entrepreneur. I wanted to do well by doing good. And I wanted to do it in a business that was predicated on human beings. I wanted to maximize the human experience, not do what a lot of companies do, which is minimize the human experience. And I said, you know what? Therefore, I need a business that can touch people and be experienced by the widest range of people. Guess what? That's coffee. If I wanted to open a really expensive high-end resort hotel, only a small amount of people would actually be able to experience that. But in the coffee business, back pre-COVID, we had 1,000 people in this company. We'd serve 15,000 guests a day. We would serve people that are millionaires and people with PhDs and pro athletes out of the same space with people that might have slept on the street the night before. But both people knew that they could come into Saxbys and they'd be treated with dignity and be treated with respect. And similarly, we have people who have PhDs in this company, and we have people that we've hired out of homeless shelters. And everybody starts at the same level with the same opportunity to grow. That's what the coffee industry has allowed me to do. And that's why, literally from jump, when I first started this company, it was always going to be more than coffee for me. And that's why it doesn't appear, not only does coffee not appear in our mission statement to make life better, it doesn't appear in any of our core values. None of them mention coffee or smoothies or anything else. Everything is about human experience and the impact that we want to make in this world.
So it sounds like, from a culture perspective, you've highlighted kind of 2 key components, right? Take care of your people and take care of your customer. I heard you talk about how you tried to take care of your people during COVID. What changed about how you interface with your customer?
Yeah, one thing before I answer that part of the question, Paul, one thing I want to talk about on the people side is, to sort of level set this, like the core part of Saxbys' business model is what we call experiential learning. So we operate a dozen cafes on college campuses. I know that most of your listeners are probably high schoolers or getting ready to go off to college. Most of you, if you're in the greater Philadelphia area, the chances are you're going to go to a college or a university that has a Saxbys on your campus. But it's not like any Saxbys, and it's certainly not like any other coffee shop. They are exclusively designed and exclusively run by students. So when you go into the Saxbys at Drexel or Temple or Millersville or Penn State or LaSalle, Westchester, St. Joe's, any of those schools, when you go in there, you're seeing a business that does anywhere between 600,000 to $1 million plus in revenue, and it is run exclusively by dozens of students. The student CEO for one semester takes no classes, gets a full semester of credit, and manages and is fully responsible for a team of 50 of his or her peers. And they come into my office every single month and they present their profit and loss statement. So they have full autonomy for their own business. So I say that because when we were navigating COVID, most companies look at young people as they're just young people. They might be here today, they might be gone tomorrow, they might move on to something else. We look at young people as very different. Young people, like I look at myself, my leadership team, we look at ourselves as educators. So what we chose to do at the beginning of COVID is we allowed all of our students to be on calls that would normally only be reserved for sort of like the executive team or the board of directors of the company. We had everybody on it. So when we were talking about the changes that we were going to have to make to be able to survive COVID, I wanted 19-year-olds from Penn State to be on that call. It probably scared some of them, but I think that it was going to be a tremendous learning experience for them in the moment. 5 years from now, 20 years from now. I know I wanted that kind of experience. And so we doubled down on being transparent during this, not just for our team members, but then also that carried through to our guests. Is that we felt like this was an amazing opportunity. Instead of sending out corporate statements, I was using my Instagram to communicate to people. I was using my LinkedIn. Like, we were going to be a real company, an authentic company, because that's what people here in Philadelphia know of us. And so, we really doubled down on this notion of we're a mission-driven company that's really transparent. One of our core values, which is sort of behind my head, is care personally, communicate openly. And we're not a company that just talks the talk. We pride ourselves on being a company that walks the talk. And so we care so personally about our team members and our guests that we're going to communicate openly, which means you're not always going to hear what you want to hear. Most companies are going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to soften the blow for you. This isn't most companies. I don't think that that's what makes people great, and I don't think that that's what allows consumers to see how we differentiate from some of our competitors. We're going to communicate openly in good times and bad, and I'm proud of us for doing that through this.
So as you transition on the other side of the pandemic, I know from a junior achievement perspective, for example, things that we did because we were forced to because of the pandemic, some of those things we will carry forward because it's allowed us to impact students in a way that maybe we were unable to do before. Are there similar lessons within Saxbys, things that you learned over the last 12 months that you think will make your organization better moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love quotes. I keep a Word document that's getting super long about sort of motivational quotes and things that like really matter to me. And I'm not sure my team has gotten tired of me constantly quoting quotes, but I do it a lot, and I would say the one that's maybe been the biggest rallying cry during COVID has been that during times of crisis, bad companies die, good companies survive, great companies change. And so it's so easy. It's in human nature and it's an organizational nature when we go through a really long crisis. This is a 12-month and counting crisis that we're essentially in. We're not quite at 12 months. We're almost at 12 months crisis. The longest I've ever had in my career, Paul, probably the longest you've ever had in your career. So this is a crisis of all crisis, if you will. And I think it's human nature and organizational nature to just constantly be grasping at what got me here. Like, where is that level of comfort? What did we do prior to COVID? And let's hold on to that. Let's just bide our time and wait until that can happen again. I don't want to be a good company. The good companies are those who are going to simply survive. This is Saxbys' opportunity to be able to go from being good to being great. And if you believe that quote, which I do, it means you can't just survive. You need to use this as an opportunity to change. And so I'd say the biggest change for us in all of this is that, it's so easy. You guys are all budding entrepreneurs. It's like, you want to figure out, like, how do I create a lot of different revenue streams in my business? I can make money by doing this, but I can also do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. Saxbys is no different than that. We have our roastery. We have urban cafes. Like, if you go into all the high rises in Center City, Philadelphia, the great majority of them have a Saxbys in the bottom of them. We had some cafes in the suburbs. You mentioned Downingtown. We had a bunch of different revenue sources. Well, guess what? There was only one thing we were truly great at. There's one thing that we were like, I call it sort of being the holy grail of business, where we're disruptive, we're differentiated, and we're highly scalable. That's our experiential learning platform. We are a first mover. We are the pioneer of teaching young people how to run their own real, demanding business while in college, getting real experience and getting classroom credit for it. We're the first mover on that. It's the most beautiful thing is when you can create a first mover advantage with a lot of growth. And so the biggest change that we made is we've scrapped all those other business models. We are an education opportunity exclusively focused on experiential learning as a company moving forward. So I'm turning off the spigot in a couple other areas of revenue, because guess what? It sounded really good to be like, we could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this. It meant that we did none of it really well. Now, by focusing all of our time, all of our attention, all of our people, all of our resources on being the best experiential learning platform company, guess what? We're going to be the best experiential learning company. We're going to scale it because we've changed who we are. We've pivoted off of who we are into something that I think has tremendous potential for us.
So I will remind all of our students that we will open it up for questions. So if you want to go ahead and raise your hand in the queue. Nick, I have two more quick questions. One I just thought of. So what does that look like? I think now most of, if not all of your college campus partnerships are in Pennsylvania, or at least in this region. Do you see expanding, nationally or even internationally at some point?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, Paul, is like, I would say it was probably May or June of this past year. It feels like it was 47 years ago, but it was really only like 7 months ago. Sitting in here, I mean, I'm surrounded by whiteboards everywhere. They're on all sides of me. I've been a madman in my laboratory here, is when I realized I'm like, we need to go all in on this. And so we've been re-engineering the business on that. And believe it or not, I mean, this is like the two tales of 1 year for us. This year is going to start like a lamb and go out like a lion. Like almost all of our college cafes are open right now, but they're only doing 55% of their normal revenue. So they're much slower because of obvious reasons. The end of this year, we're opening 8 new experiential learning cafes. We're gonna nearly double the size of our experiential learning platform, and we're gonna start moving geography. So we're opening 3 cafes, all exclusively student run at the University of Pittsburgh in the fall.
Okay.
We're going to John Carroll University, which is a Jesuit private school. It's like a St. Joe's or a LaSalle for us Philadelphians, which is out in Cleveland. And we're doing a lot in New Jersey now. So we're doing Rowan, and we're doing some schools in Central and North Jersey. So now we're starting to really take the show on the road, because before we were a little resource starved, because the same team that would have to support all this experiential learning growth was going to have to support a bunch of other different verticals of business. So now's the time for us to put all of our effort and focus there, and we're going to start to take the show on the road. I was on calls with a bunch of different universities in California today. So I think in the next 2 years, we will have the experiential learning platform will start to be a bi-coastal opportunity. And from there, we want to really try to grow aggressively and infill the country, and maybe internationally one day.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I know we have at least one question so far. Let me open this up here. Okay, so Ayad, I think you're up.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Great to meet you as well.
I just wanted to thank you for coming out and speaking to us. I'm inspired by not only like what you've done, but also like maintaining your lifestyle balance and sort of like focusing on the longevity and transparency of your business. So I was just wondering, what was like the main source of developing your company from quite literally like just you all the way to this like huge, well-respected brand name, even after COVID hit? Was it like your disruptive business planning with your universities, or was it something else?
No, I mean, good question, Ad. So I think what it is what I sort of mentioned at the very beginning, is that when I locked in and figured out what it is that I'm good at and what I'm passionate about, and I went all in. Like out of school, I'm a first generation college graduate. So my parents were teenagers when they had me, had no education. I was the first person to go to college, graduated college, and it unlocked the opportunity for me to do anything. And I went into consulting right out of school, and I had an amazing job. I was making really good money. I'd been promoted a bunch. Everyone's like, oh, you just do that the rest of your life. I didn't care if they paid me $1 million a year. I was unhappy. Like I was not doing something I wanted to do, and money does not make you happy. Doing what you're good at and what you love to do makes you happy. And if money makes you a little happier, the money will be there as well. If having the flexibility to live where you want, travel what you want, blah, 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 makes you happy, it'll be there if you do what you love to do and you're good at it. And so for me, I just couldn't wait to get out of consulting. I couldn't wait to create a business. And so I created a business in coffee, and people were like, Nick, I kid you not, is it Ayad?
It's Iode.
Ayud, sorry, Ayud. I want to make sure I say your name right. I got an easy, boring name. You got a much cooler name. So when I was telling people I'm going into the coffee industry, they're like, Nick, are you crazy? Like, you don't even, like, kid you not, at the time, I didn't even drink coffee. I drink a lot of coffee now, as you could probably tell, and I have for years, but I didn't even drink coffee because it wasn't about coffee for me. It was about, I am going to go in a people business where I can lift up and help change people's lives, and I'm going to recruit a lot of people who see the world like I do, and we're going to do it together. And when you add me with Ayud and you add me with Paul, and we all see the world the same way, and we're willing to put all of our blood, sweat, and tears and our hard work together, it's amazing how much you can do. So what allowed us to go from one single person to where we are today is it starts with one person knowing what they're good at and having the discipline to be able to do it, and then opening up the bus to other people. And I'm one person on the bus. You know, like now I'm critical to how this bus moves, but I'm not the only reason why this bus moves in the direction that it does. But if I was all over the place, and I was into Saxbys some days and not into Saxbys other days, if I was culturally aligned some days and not other days, we wouldn't have gotten from that company to the company that we are today. And as an entrepreneur, a budding entrepreneur, a soon-to-be entrepreneur, it starts with you. You're the most powerful catalyst. And if you're going to do something you either don't like or you're not good at, it's going to be hard to scale. And on the flip side, you do something you love and you're good at, it's going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be really scalable as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Ayud. If you don't mind too, while you guys ask a question, where do you, like, you're in high school right now?
Yeah, I'm a senior.
A senior. Are you getting ready to go to college?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go?
I don't know yet, but I'm planning on majoring in either aerospace or mechanical engineering.
Good for you. Are you considering staying in Philly or going outside of Philly?
I'm considering both options because like some of my main options, I guess, like either Purdue, Villanova, or like Maryland. I don't know yet though. I'm still waiting on some more options.
Good for you. Well, I know Paul's going to ask this. Make sure you guys reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'm a big advocate of LinkedIn. I'll send you my email address and all that kind of stuff. But you know, I'm in conversations with Maryland, in conversation with Purdue, in conversation with Villanova. I know everybody at those schools, like my partners. So if I could do anything to help you, please let me know.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to have some coffee there.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, we got about 2 more minutes left. Any other questions? I think I just saw a hand go up. Gabe? Nope. Yep, Gabe.
Hello.
Hey, Gabe.
I just wanted to ask, so you talked about your college program with like the college student running like the business in the college, like his peers or whatever. So how do you qualify for that, and what's the whole system? Because I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Are you in high school, or you're in high school too, right?
I'm in high school right now, yeah.
Got it. Yes, I mean, it is, for example, Drexel is on a different, I'm pointing Drexel because I'm in Center City right now, so Drexel's like right behind me. Drexel is on a quarter system, so we recruit there on a different system than all of our other schools. The student CEO position that we just posted got 300 applications for just the student CEO position. And so typically what we do, because I believe that this is how great leadership organizations are built, is we recruit from within. So we like when student CEOs, like if Gabe is the student CEO and as your tenure is getting ready to come up, you've helped develop Paul or Ayud. The number one way that the next student CEO gets hired is with the recommendation of the current student CEO. Because we believe great leaders develop other talent. They don't make the organization all about them. So the first key is join the team. So if you decide to go to Temple, for example, where we have 2 experiential learning cafes, join one of those 2 teams. We employ about 300 Temple students. And so join one of the teams, and then from there, you're eligible for our internship program. You'll meet me, my executive team, the student CEOs. Like, you'll be super tied into everything from there. And then if you're very interested in the student CEO program, you've got a huge leg up because you're on the team. You're in the Saxbys family at that point.
That's really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Where are you thinking about going to school, Gabe?
I'm not totally sure. I'm a sophomore right now, so.
Oh, so you got some time. Enjoy high school. Enjoy high school.
But hey, I'll throw that in my consideration now.
Thanks, Gabe. Linnea, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, hi. So I'm a non-student interloper. I'm one of the volunteers from a host site of the program, but I just wanted to say, actually, my alma mater is home to one of those experiential cafes. I think it's such a cool idea, and I just wanted to ask, like, how did you come up with that idea rather than, you know, just opening a branch on campus? How did you decide to actually have students run it?
Yeah, great. What's your alma mater, Linnea?
Millersville.
Ah, it's funny. I'm getting text messages right now about Millersville. Millersville is like, it's an exceptional business that we have there. I mean, it is. It was a faculty dining hall probably when you were in school there. It's been converted into a Saxbys.
Yeah.
There are almost no classes in session right now this semester at Millersville. We served 500 guests today at that cafe.
Wow.
Like, it is like the place to be. We employ 70 students out of that cafe. I'm like super proud of Millersville. And so, you know, the reason why I wanted to do it this way versus us just opening a corporate cafe is two things. One, I believe the best comes out of people when they're empowered, versus just being sort of a number or a cog in a wheel. And the second thing is I've been involved in higher ed now for about a decade. My alma mater, I went to Cornell in upstate New York. My alma mater asked me to be what would turn out to be the first ever entrepreneur in residence at Cornell's modern day business school. And I got to see 10 years ago something that didn't exist when I was in school more than 10 years ago, which was teaching entrepreneurship. Most schools, universities, if you want to learn entrepreneurship, you better go to JA. You better have an aunt or an uncle or a mailman down the street who will teach you entrepreneurship, because higher ed didn't do it. So I got to see that start to change in higher ed. And so I wanted to put together the combination of the two things. As universities started to realize they needed to teach experientially. You can't just have people sit in a classroom, talk at them, expect them to memorize things, regurgitate, and give them a good grade or a bad grade if they couldn't remember things. They needed to learn by doing. And secondly, we've always been a very entrepreneurial business. Our cafes have always been run by CEOs. So I'm like, you know what? This is actually the perfect match made in heaven, because what we're doing is not creating the next generation of coffee entrepreneurs. If you can learn how to run, the Saxbys at Millersville does $1.1 million a year in revenue. It's only open for 7.5 months a year. So if on an annualized basis, it does about $1.5 million in revenue. The student CEO manages 70 of her peers and has competition everywhere, a huge vendor network. So by the time they graduate, they sit down in interviews and can talk about how they led 70 people as a CEO, how they can walk you through their P&L. And guess what happens? They get whatever job they want. And they have the tools now to be able to do it. So we're not teaching coffee entrepreneurship. We're teaching business. We're teaching leadership. We're teaching civic entrepreneurship. That's what we're teaching, agnostic of our industry. And so that's why I wanted to do something more than just have corporate cafes.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a great opportunity for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got two more questions in the queue. Anjali, I think I messed that one up.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
You did a good job, Paul.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So I guess, sorry for going a little bit over time here, but I know you mentioned talking about finding your passion and kind of just honing into it and just, putting all your effort into beginning something on your own. But as you started creating the foundation of Saxbys, what were like some challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them as you started like trying to expand or like build a team underneath you to kind of grow your company and make it more than just yourself?
Yeah, great question, Anjali. And just sort of based on the time, I'll give one answer because it's the most important answer, which is I didn't know the importance of culture, like that you define what your business stands for. You write out your mission statement, you write out your core values. So for the first 7 years of Saxbys' existence, we literally didn't have a mission statement. We literally didn't have core values. And as a result, we didn't really have a good culture either. And it wasn't until I started to go to Cornell and was a guest, an entrepreneur in residence and a guest lecturer. They say that the best way to learn is to teach. And I'm a perfect example of that. I went up there to teach. I was learning way more than I think I was actually teaching. And one of the things that I learned was every great organization, regardless of size, regardless of industry, wins because they have culture. And when organizations get destroyed or they no longer exist, it's because they either didn't have culture or their culture eroded. And I was like, whoa, that's like so aligned with what I believe, but I didn't know that. I didn't know it. So we literally had to change the wheels on our proverbial bus and build our mission statement and build our core values while it was moving down the street 7 years ago. And thank God we did, because one, we wouldn't have existed, and two, it wouldn't be nearly as fun as it is now. I get to work with so many people that are mission aligned. I don't run around being like, make life better. We're going to make life better. And people are like, oh God, this guy in the make life better. They're coming back at me more excited about making life better. They can't wait to tell me stories about how they serve yourself by serving others. It's one of our other core values. Like, everyone here is as or more excited about our mission core values. And when you put all of that together, that's culture. So my biggest lesson learned is if I didn't eventually create it, we were going to die. Our business was going to fail to exist. And on the opposite side, you create it and you walk the walk, your business starts to really thrive.
All right, thank you. That was really helpful.
Oh, of course. Is that a Penn sweatshirt you're wearing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going there. It's like supporting my brother, but I am a senior, so fingers crossed. Hoping for good news soon.
Yeah, are you applying to Penn also?
Yes, I did apply.
We have a Saxbys at 40th and Locust. If your brother's there, he probably knows it.
I know that one actually. It's like right across from apartments, right?
The high rises. Yep, it's right across the street. Yep.
I know it. I hope to be there soon.
Good luck. Maybe we'll see each other in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Gabe, I see your hands up. Is that up from before, or we've got time for one very quick question?
Yeah, so this is Max.
Max, you've done this to me before. You guys prayed out on the call.
Yeah, sometimes I just come down and watch on my brother's account because it's easier.
No worries. So last question, Max.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. So I kind of have two. One's really short. One is because you kind of mentioned college a little bit. What did you actually study while you were in college?
I have a government and economics major. I have a degree in government economics. So, which is fine. Do I use it? No. But for me, my network that I built in college, my tie to my alma mater, those were very, very important things to me. If I could do it all over again, would I have probably made a change? Yes, I probably would have made a change, but I'm living proof that because you get a diploma with this on a piece of paper doesn't mean you can't go out and do anything you want to do.
Nice. Awesome. And then my second question kind of was too on your experimental learning platform is have you ever thought of expanding beyond just coffee, having other ways for other schools that maybe might be better for that experiment to learning with people running it, just instead of a coffee business, it's something else?
Yeah, we definitely have. That's a great question, Max. So we're working on sort of other business models and sort of other verticals, and we're working on ways of sort of rolling this out in non-higher ed settings as well. And I'll give you an example of we get asked by high schools all the time to bring this to their cafeterias or their campuses. We've even had discussions of potentially even bringing it behind bars. Meaning. We have a lot of people that are serving time behind bars, many of which are not violent offenses, most of which will come out after spending some time behind bars. And what they don't have is a resume. What they don't have are experiences and it therefore just makes them fall farther behind. Again, we're not creating coffee entrepreneurs. We're teaching people how to be good leaders, how to be responsible, how to understand a profit and loss statement, vendors, and those kinds of things. So we see our experiential learning platform being a lot more than just coffee and in higher ed in the years to come.
Awesome. That's super cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Max. And Nick, thank you very much. I know we went a little over on our time, but I think that's a testament to the story that you told, the examples that you gave, and living your mission every day, and you gave a little back to our students today. So, any last words you want to share, Nick?
No, I really appreciate you guys making all the time here. I wish I were as smart and as adventurous as all of you when I was in high school. Yeah, I think I would have learned a whole lot more instead I had to learn on the School of Hard Knocks when I was creating Saxbys. So I applaud all of you for your interest in entrepreneurship, being good leaders, junior achievement, making the time to be able to do this. So hit me up on LinkedIn. It's a tremendous tool, and it's never too early. You guys are young, but it's never too early to start building your platform. So hit me up on there, and be well, and hopefully I can be a support to any and all of you guys.
Okay, Nick, that was really great. We really appreciate it. We'll send you a note when this is posted, and hopefully you can share it within your network as well. Cool. All of our students and volunteers on tonight, thanks a lot for spending the time with us, and I will see you all back here next week. Everyone have a good evening.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Have a good week. Good evening.
Weekend.